Hey, what's up everyone? It's me, it's Rich. Okay, so I know this is a little late, but I'm still gonna do it because I have seen the movie and I still want to actually talk about the movie. And since my friend kind of triggered me to actually finally shoot this review, I'm gonna shoot this review and talk about the movie. And that movie is Ghost in the Shell. Alright, so Ghost in the Shell is based off of a Japanese manga that was also turned into an anime film, which actually spawned the idea of remaking it into this live action adaptation. Now, this live action adaptation is directed by Rupert Sanders, who also did Snow White and the Huntsman. Actually, I haven't even seen it, so I can't really talk for a movie that I haven't seen, but from what I've been hearing, it's pretty similar to what he did there to here. Anyways, Ghost in the Shell, directed by Rupert Sanders, stars the lovely Scarlett Johansson as Major. Now I'm totally gonna get his name wrong, especially his last name wrong, but just his whole name wrong. Pelou Abse as Bateau. The great Takeshi Kitano. I know him from the movie. What is that? Battle Royale. That's how I know this guy, and I know he's in certain other movies also that I've seen, the Japanese movies, but he's amazing. He is Aramaki in this live adaptation. Juliette Binoche is Dr. Owlette. Michael Pitt is Kuze. Chin Han as Togusa, and Peter Ferdinando as Cutter. Now, Ghost in the Shell is this beloved anime that actually has a cult following from way back when till now, and it's this very popular manga slash anime that's been regarded as one of the best animes out there, like the OG animes, you know. Now I will say up front that the very first time I saw Ghost in the Shell, the anime movie, was just last year. Now when I saw it last year, it was definitely a product of its time, but it's so ahead of its time, if that makes any sense. You know, this movie, the anime in this case, actually dealt with a lot of things that were kind of dealing today, in a sense of where technology is going to the future, or headed to the future. Now, I will say about this movie is that, for me, in my opinion, I'm definitely in the minority of this, but I actually enjoyed the movie. I did enjoy this movie for what it is, but at the same time, critically, it's not praised. I think if anything, the last time I checked, it had like a 44 in Rotten Tomatoes. So it's just one of those things where, like, for the most parts, there's more people that didn't like it so much. I myself, for one, is definitely in the minority that I actually did enjoy this movie. I thought this movie was a decent adaptation of the anime film itself. There was definitely this sort of Blade Runner feel to it, and yes, Blade Runner did come before it, and so if anything, you know, it probably got some inspiration from Blade Runner, and you actually do see that when you actually finally watch the movie itself. But we're not talking about Blade Runner, and Blade Runner is awesome in my opinion, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about Ghost in the Shell, and Ghost in the Shell, from what it took from the anime, it translated most of the scenes quite well. Like I said, I watched the anime just last year, and I've only seen it twice, or actually one and a half. There's one time where I fell asleep because I was just like so tired after work. But the whole time I watched it, I was like, okay, cool. I get why this is such a great film. And I kind of had to go back and watch it as if I were watching it in that era. It's one of those movies, I think, that it still holds up, but with the sensibilities that I was trying to do back then, it doesn't really apply. It's not that it doesn't apply to today, but it's one of those things where, like, we live in such a technological world that before here and now, those kind of ideas were so far from being a reality, where now all these robots and Geminoids, actually, the research about that, it's called Geminoids in Japan, go check it out. But it's basically this android. It's an android. It's basically a freaking AI android. They're called Geminoids. But now it's such a reality that's not so far-fetched when we hear about all these talking AIs and robots and androids and all that stuff. But back then, it's more of like, oh man, it's a sci-fi thing. So when Ghost in the Shell came out, it was one of those big hits. Like, oh my gosh, this is this is insane. The ideas and the concepts of everything is just so far in advance. And so me watching Ghost in the Shell, the anime version, didn't really do anything for me, just because I've seen it all. And that's what this movie does also, is that this movie doesn't really bring anything new to it. And at this point, we've seen Blade Runner and Matrix and all these other sci-fi movies that kind of put a stamp in that kind of concept. You know, even iRobot to some extent did its own thing. And so Ghost in the Shell doesn't really do anything new. There's no groundbreaking things about it, even though the anime did a lot of groundbreaking things about it. Yet I still enjoyed it for what it is. And I kind of hate saying that for what it is, but that's, in this case, it's one of those things where the movie's okay. I enjoyed it a lot more people didn't, but for me, I was like, it's a good movie, it's a decent movie, I enjoyed it, but it's not the same. It's not like the anime, you know what I mean? It's not like the anime. The anime is definitely far superior from the live action adaptation itself. The acting, on the other hand, I thought was good. You know, Scarlett Johansson acted in this very, you know, robotic way, but that's what she is, so I was expecting that already. If anything, Pilot Absik, again, I'm butchering his complete name, but Bateau definitely was the highlight in this whole movie. I thought he did an amazing job as Bateau. His chemistry with Scarlett Johansson was just off the charts. They played well off of each other, and he was great. He was great in the role. And of course, Takeshi Kitano just kills it every time. Every time he's on screen, he has this presence with him. And again, he's one of those legendary Japanese actors that are always on his A game, and same thing here. Frickin' same thing here. Juliette Binoche is always just, she's always great. She's always great. So I can't really say anything about her. She did her thing, and it was awesome. And at the same time, everyone else did quite well. The acting in this weren't like Oscar worthy, but they were definitely well done. And they all acted well. Overall, just good acting, just solid acting, right? Nothing too crazy, nothing too bad, but it's just solid, straight up acting. And as far as visuals, this was a gorgeous, beautiful movie to look at. I mean, just the canvases that you can see, the exterior shots of just the whole city itself, amazing. Beautiful landscapes, just amazing to look at. If there's one thing that people will take away from this movie, is that it's so gorgeous to look at. The story, on the other hand, is where it kind of falls apart. Now, here's the thing. In the anime and the manga, I've never read the manga, but from what I took from the anime itself, the movie, it has this rich, deep story to it. Whereas in this movie, it was very streamlined, very, I don't want to say on the nose, but just simple. They simplified it, which is not a bad idea, especially when it deals with a lot of these heavy ideas and deep concepts. But at the same time, when you streamline those kind of things, in my opinion, you lose that sense of storytelling. You lose the heart of it. In this case, the ghost of it. So they adapted it well visually, but it did lose that essence that it had in the anime. And so I think, if anything, that was a big problem for it. Now, I will bring up one thing that, if anything, this probably caused the movie to flop, even though I don't think it did. It did have some effect on it, was the controversial casting of Scarlett Johansson in this movie, in this role as Major. Now, I'm not going to try to get political here, but I will say this. The way they handled the character in the movie, I thought, I wouldn't say genius, but it was handled quite well. I don't think it was a genius way to do it, but I really don't think you can go about it any other way. I thought they did it quite well. They executed it quite well. And I thought, in a way, it kind of, you know, I don't want to give up the spoiler, but there's definitely a reason why Scarlett Johansson is cast as Major. There's the reason there, even though the reason is, you know, not mind-blowing. It's a reason, and it worked well in the confines of the movie itself. And here's the thing, this movie would never have been done if Scarlett Johansson wasn't casted. There's only very few hand-selected female lead actresses out there that can still pull in general audiences just by their names itself. And Scarlett Johansson is one of them. You know, I want to say probably in the early 2000s to like mid-late 2000s was Angelina Jolie was definitely the big name that once you see her in the cast, boom, I'm in. And after, I want to say late 2000s to like the early teens, and even now to some extent, is Jennifer Lawrence is one of those names. And throughout the years also, Scarlett Johansson has become this big name that she is, that she can garner and attract the general masses to go to the movies just by her name itself. And yes, so they casted her because that is exactly why this movie was made. Because if you casted any other actresses out there, whether it is an Asian American actor, it wouldn't have garnered that many people. Yet at the same time, I will say that if they probably did cast an Asian actress out there, I think it probably would have made, obviously it would have made more sense, but it probably would have made more money also. But at the same time, it's one of those things where like you can't just cast any actress out there, because if no one knows who it is, then no one's really gonna go watch the movie. So there is that balancing act there, and I'm not saying go cast a white actress or a white actor to any kind of Asian or whatever race it is movies. I'm not saying that, but there is that fine line where like, well, we gotta cast someone who can bring in people. And like I said, Scarlett Johansson is one of those few actresses that can do that just by her name itself. Was it wrong for them to cast Scarlett Johansson? Business wise, no, I don't think so. That might be controversial to some of you, and I'm sorry if I offended you, but at the same time, if you really think about it, movies are a business also. They're not just for entertainment, it's also a movie industry. It's a business. So for me, yes, I would love to have someone else played Major. Get a Japanese actor, an awesome Japanese actor, and there's many of them, but they don't have that kind of name to pull other people in the seats, in the movie theater seats. So there's that. But like I said, the way they handled Scarlett Johansson's casting in the movie, the way that ties into the story, I thought was quite well. It did its service. I think this movie, this live adaptation, did the anime justice. It stayed true to its source material, but simplifying the story did lose a lot of its essence, a lot of its ghost in the whole shell of this movie. Overall, I thought this movie was a decent live action adaptation of the anime and the manga, and it did do its service, it did do it justice, but it did lose the essence of the whole thing, of the deep storytelling that it had in the original source. But I still enjoyed it, and that's my review for Ghost in the Shell. And as for ratings, I will give Ghost in the Shell 7 spider tanks out of 10. And that is it, everyone. Thank you guys for watching. If you like what you see here, please go ahead and click that like button. And if you want to share this video, go for it. It's up to you. And also, if you want more content from me, I do have other things coming up. Go ahead and click that subscribe button. Thank you very much. I will say though, if they cast a white actress for Mulan in the Disney live action adaptation of Mulan, I will flip out. I will frickin' flip out like a mother. Alright, that's it. Thank you guys for watching once again. I am Rich, and I am out. Stay awesome, my friends.